Welcome to What's Going On, the weekly podcast and videocast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota.
Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of What's Going On. I'm Pastor Katie here at First United Methodist, and I'm glad you could join me for this episode. I'm going to do the same type of thing that I did last week, where we're going to do kind of our housekeeping, this is what's happening, make sure you're aware of things, and then dive into another aspect of church and clergy culture that maybe you're unaware of, and at least, or maybe you don't know that much about. And so I thought it might be interesting. So you guys stay tuned for that. So the first thing, things that are happening in the life of the church. This Tuesday, we started in our, where is my book for that? Finding Peace Through Humility, a Bible study in the book of Judges. This is the one Tuesdays at noon. There is no reading required. There is opportunity to go deeper, but you can come to the Tuesday class, watch the video, and join in on the conversation. Even if you've missed one or gonna miss one, this is a 6-week study, so it's a little bit shorter commitment than some of the other ones. I already from the first week feel like, wow, there's some really good things to talk about and think about. We talked a lot about making idols out of things and how easy it is for us to judge the Israelites because they're, putting up Asherah poles and worshiping Baal. And we're like, who's going to do that? Like, that's so dumb. Like, of course that's stupid. But how often we put our faith and trust in things that are not God and put those things in the place of worship rather than our one true God. So this is a good one. You're invited to come Tuesdays, noon to 1. This coming Sunday is our first, and it's going to be sort of an introductory one. We're not really doing any of the homework prior to of the Disciple Fast Track. That's going to be in the Wesley Hall Fellowship Hall downstairs at 8 a.m. I am committing to making breakfast and making coffee. I'm thinking an egg bake maybe, because honestly, making an egg bake for everybody and some fruit is going to be cheaper than donuts, which is crazy to me, but and also better for you, honestly, better for you. So anyway, if you would like to do this, you can still come. One of the things I need to let you know, though, is that the books are on back order. So if you did not get in on the first order of books, you can still get this via an ebook, like on Kindle, or what I am willing to do, and don't tell people, but we will make it work for you. So don't let that be a hindrance. It's $15 to participate, and that will cover the cost of whatever book, unless you you don't have to pay me the $15 if you order the ebook version or the Kindle version, because then that's the cost, is the book. So that's this Sunday, 8 o'clock. Really excited about it. I think we're going to have fun. We've got a good group already. And if you want to join us, this is a bigger commitment. This is a 12-week study for the Old Testament and a 12-week study for the New Testament. And we'll take a break in between. So that is happening starting this Sunday. Also, don't forget, let me grab my other one. September. This is our September Pastor Book Club book, Practicing the Way by John Mark Comer. Again, I believe this is also available Kindle edition, or you can order it online. I know it's at Barnes & Noble, so you can get that, read it, come. Even if you don't read the book, come for the discussion, because I believe you would still get something out of it. It's very informal, and really just an opportunity for us to share, what we got out of it. I mean, it's a book club. So it's not like a story that, if you don't know, there's going to be things you'll be able to connect to, even if you don't get the book read or all of the book read, and that's okay. 605, off and running. Don't forget to be looking at the ways that you can support 605, especially around food donations, and looking at the list for those. Also, don't forget, we're still doing our Loads of Love laundry mission. The sign-up sheets for those are at our missions table when you come into the church. We've got lots of produce coming in from the garden, from other people. I think we even have apples right now, so lots of bounty happening. So check out the church before you go to the grocery store to get things like cucumbers or zucchini or peppers or tomatoes or apples. we want to be able to share that with all of you. That's an abundance that we have and that we are grateful for. This coming Monday, the United Women in Faith are having their meeting at 1:30, and the presenter is Linda Fox, who will be talking about women in the military, and particularly her military experience being in the United States Navy. And that should be fantastic. And so definitely a great thing for you to come check out. On Wednesday, the 11th, will be Men's Night Out at 6:30. And so make arrangements for that if you can. I know that Women's Night Out is working on getting something on the schedule. And so when we know that, we will let you know as well. Yeah, so those are some of the big things. We kicked off our Crazy Faith sermon series, so be on the lookout each week for that. And yeah, we're off and rolling. But the thing that I want to really talk about today, where did it go? Are clergy stoles. And so I just dropped all of them on the floor. That's all right. But this Sunday, I wore this clergy stole over my dress. And you might have noticed starting this summer that I've started wearing my stoles on communion Sundays. And basically, I decided after annual conference this year, and I'm not sure why. It's really up to the clergy how they choose to, what they choose to wear for worship and things like that. But there's just something in me that said, I've got these beautiful stoles. I want to wear them, but I don't want to wear them all the time. And so I've decided I'm going to wear my stoles for any time that we have sacraments in the service. We have two sacraments in the United Methodist Church, and that is Holy Communion and Holy Baptism. And so whenever we have communion, which is the first Sundays of the month, or whenever I have a baptism on the calendar, which we've got a couple coming up, you're going to see me wearing my stoles. Am I going to be wearing my robes? No. I wear my robes for weddings and funerals, my robes and stoles. And that's just a personal preference. But I want to talk about the stoles today. And so this is the stole that I was wearing. I have many stoles, but I want to talk a little bit about so one of the things that made me realize it is because you guys were being so kind and so lovely and wanting to compliment me and going, I like your thing. So one, it's called a stole, comes from the Latin word stola, meaning garment. And the practice of wearing clergy stoles goes back, over 1,000 years. Like they say that they're not really sure when it became like common practice, but we see evidence of it as early as 600 AD of clergy wearing some kind of stole. Now I think they had religious garments prior to that, and we even see that in the Old Testament. You can see the priests having very specific religious garments. And the stole serves a variety of functions, the primary function being that it is a sign of the office of the ordained clergy person. A stole, when a clergy person wears a stole, it is a sign that they are a clergy person, that they have been ordained by God into this role, and makes it one, easily identifiable to other people, and two, I think serves as a reminder to the clergy person their particular role within the life of the community. Now, I want to say it in that way and be very particular in how I'm saying that, because I do not want you to hear that getting to wear a stole makes someone better than somebody else. And there was that sort of practice in the Roman culture and something prior to our clergy stoles, where they would wear something that kind of like signified that they were better than other people. And I don't want you to come across thinking that because I wear a stole, that that's how I feel. In fact, I don't believe that at all. In fact, I think clergy are not better or worse than anybody else, but we are set apart. We are called into a unique role within the life of the church, but it's not a better or worse role. It's just different. I have a different role within the life of the church than what anybody else has been called to. that the job that I have been given and called to is a different kind of calling than what other people in the church have been called to. And that's okay. It doesn't make me better or worse. It makes me different. But let's be real, I've always been different. So I mean, that just kind of fit right in. And that's how we see it, as clergy are set apart, just as the church building is set apart for worship of God. That a church, even the word holy means set apart. It means set apart for the purposes of God's use. And a clergy person has been set apart for the purposes of God's use in the community of faith, that we serve God in a particular way for the community of the church. Now, I think every person in the church serves God, but in different ways. And this is the way that we've been called to do it. And the stole helps to signify that. One of the other kind of tie-ins that we talk about often with stoles, or if a clergy person is wearing a clergy collar, often in this area we see it primarily with our Catholic priests. But Protestant clergy also have the ability, and some choose to. I know that when Reverend Carl Watkins was leading worship in August, he was wearing a clergy collar. That's the shirt that has the little white square on the neck. And again, that's another signifier, right, of clergy. I choose not to wear a clergy collar, mostly because I have associations with it that when I grew up, I didn't know any Protestant clergy that wore them. I only associated them with Catholic priests, and I feel weird because I don't want someone to be like, what are you doing? You're a woman. You're clearly not a Catholic priest. And I don't think that necessarily people would feel that way, but um, it's my own comfort with it. It's my own associations that I put with it that make me feel uncomfortable with it. And so I choose not to go that route, but I am more than supportive and happy when my clergy colleagues choose to do that, and they do it for a variety of reasons. And a lot of it, I think, depends on context. Again, I'm in Yankton in a very Catholic community, and that would be, I think, the natural association. And especially because I'm a woman, I think it becomes very cognitively dissonant for people. And so I try to be mindful of that a little bit. I don't want to come across as being disrespectful. Even knowing that me wearing a clergy collar is not inherently disrespectful because I am clergy, but not everyone thinks I should be. So back to the stoles. In the United Methodist Church, the people who can wear stoles are not every pastor, believe it or not. We there are two categories of people that can wear stoles in the United Methodist Church, and that are ordained clergy and diaconal ministers. Diaconal ministers are kind of a rarity anymore. I don't really know that many. To be honest, if you were to put me on the spot, I'm not even sure I could name one. I'm not even sure we have any in our conference. They are sort of a holdout from an earlier time in the church. But they are allowed to wear stoles. And when they wear a stole, they would wear it on one shoulder. This is the same for deacons. So I talked about last week that there are two tracks for ordination, elder and deacon. And so one of the ways that you can tell the difference is if they are ordained and wearing a stole. So if you go to annual conference, when we do our ordination service, the clergy are invited to wear their robes and to wear stoles. And you will see some clergy that wear their stole almost like a sash, almost like I don't want to, like a Miss America kind of sash. Let me turn this down. Like a Miss America kind of sash, and they'll pin it on the side here. If you see someone wearing their stole this way, it's not that they don't know what they're doing. It is because they are most likely ordained as a deacon or a diaconal minister. And that's so that is a sign of their ordination. and they are clergy, but they are clergy in a different order and called to slightly different things than an elder. Now, if you go to the annual conference service in the United Methodist Church, you will see some people who are getting commissioned, and that commissioning, they're not getting a stole because that's not the point in the process where we give clergy their stoles. Are they clergy? Yes. Are they going to work as clergy? Yes. But what we do at commissioning is they get robed, and they either can choose to be robed by a mentor or another clergy person, or I know at one point they were, I think when I was getting commissioned, you got robed by a retiring clergy person, which I thought was really cool because it was kind of the sign of like, I'm leaving, like I'm done with my time of ministry and you are just beginning, and kind of like passing the mantle on was pretty cool. But I also see it when it's someone that means a lot to you and is a mentor, and you know, so at commissioning, they robe. Now, we have a whole category called local licensed pastors, and they can wear robes. Anybody can wear a robe, honestly, but at commissioning, there's just kind of this sign of like taking on this role um, in some way. But it's not until ordination that in the United Methodist Church that clergy can wear a stole, because stoles are a sign of ordination. And so in our conference, we receive a stole at ordination as a gift. And every year, the stoles are slightly different, although I think they kind of rotate through certain designs, because like every 3 or 4 years, we'll end up with the same stoles. So I'm going to show you, this is my ordination stole. All the ordination stoles are red. Red is one of the liturgical colors. It's the liturgical color for Pentecost and the receiving of the Holy Spirit. And so there's some connection there with ordination and the Holy Spirit working in you to me, they're connected, right? The Holy Spirit is the spirit that's setting you apart for this particular kind of ministry. And so when you go to an ordination service, we're all wearing our red stoles. Mine has these 3 symbols embroidered into it. These don't have necessarily particular meaning that I'm aware of. They're pretty though. I mean, they kind of are reminiscent of the Trinity symbol, except there's 4 of them, so I'm not sure. If someone knows the answer to this, what this symbol is, actually, that would be really helpful. 'Cause I'm not really sure, but I think it's really pretty. I like my ears stoles, and I'm an elder, so the way I wear my stole is over my neck. And we talk about this as the yoke of Christ. There's a part in scripture where Jesus talks about my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And part of the when we wear stoles is a reminder of the mantle or the yoke that we put on in this role, that we are called to service, that we are called to take on this work in the kingdom of God, and that we are empowered and gifted by Christ to do so. So this would be the first stole that I would have ever worn as ordained clergy, because I would have gotten it at my ordination, and it would have been put on to me by the bishop. It was, I don't know why I'm saying it would have been. It was. The bishop placed it over me, and it almost felt like getting knighted or something. Like it has that same sort of feeling, I would suppose. I've never been knighted, but that kind of passing of authority. And so when you see someone who in the United Methodist Church, again, I have to be very clear, this is for us as United Methodists. Other denominations do it differently. But if a clergy person is wearing a stole, it should signify that they are fully ordained clergy. And local licensed pastors do not wear stoles because they are not fully ordained. So red stole typically signifies Pentecost, because you also tend to wear stoles Well, again, this is sort of personal preference, but you can choose to wear stoles based on the liturgical season. So if I wore stoles every week, um, maybe I would rotate through the colors based on what season we were in. So right now we are in ordinary time, ordinal time, which is basically the season where you're just counting the weeks, which is ordinal is the counting, and the liturgical color is green. Now, green's my favorite color. Believe it or not, I don't really have green stoles. Um, I think there were some in my closet when I came in the office, but they don't really fit me. I don't like stoles that I'm tripping over because I'm not as tall as some other people. Um, so that's a hint. If you would like to give me a green stole, that would be awesome. Uh, red would be Pentecost. I have a white stole here that was gifted to me, and the neck is gross, so don't look at that part. This white and gold stole was gifted to me by the church I was serving when I was ordained, because that's a very common gift. If you're the church that you're serving while you get ordained, for them to gift you a stole. And so they gifted me this white one. White is the liturgical color for Easter and Christmas, or gold. I often will wear this one for weddings, um, just because my robe is white. And then if I have a white stole on, because if I don't have a stole that matches in their sort of color scheme, I don't want to stand out. Oftentimes with a wedding, my goal is to sort of erase myself as much as possible. And so I try to stay as neutral as I can. Um, and so that's often when, if you're going to see me wear this one, that's probably when you would see me wear it. But it's very lovely. It's got a cross embroidered onto it. It's got some gold fringe at the bottom. I do really love this one. It's kind of satiny. Um, and it's special because that was a gift from a church. This um, one of the ways that we can get stoles is you can purchase stoles. Like Cokesbury sells them, different places sell them. People can make them for you if you're crafty enough to be able to do that for yourself. I am not. You can do it that way, or you can be gifted stoles from retired clergy. This one came from retired clergy when I was serving as a chaplain intern, and I've got another one that I'll show you from that time. And I just thought it was so pretty. It's got the flowers, the birds. Yeah. Let's see what else I got here. Probably the stole. If you see me wear a stole, this is my favorite. Again, you can kind of tell that I don't necessarily follow the liturgical colors, often because typically I'm wearing stoles for weddings and funerals, and now for sacraments. Um, this one I love because it just has all the colors. I love how it fits. One of the things I really enjoy is when the stoles is like that, so it's easy to lay flat over your shoulders. And then coming down, it's also got some fringe. This, this one is beautiful. Again, it has all the colors. I feel like it represents kind of all of the things in my mind. So this is my favorite. This is the one I wear 9 times out of 10, unless I'm at annual conference, then I wear my red one. But I love this one. This is also came from a retired clergy person. Now, I also have had the experience of doing some weddings, and again, I wear stoles at weddings, where the couple has made a stole for me that goes along with the theme of the wedding. So I have, and I don't know where it is. My first wedding that I did for one of, she was actually the maid of honor at my wedding. And I co-officiated it with my other clergy friend, and the three of us have been friends since we were 5 years old. And her mother made us stoles for that wedding. Probably technically wasn't supposed to wear one then, but I won't say anything. I also, my niece got married, and she had a sunflower theme to her wedding. And so Sue May made me a sunflower stole. And I think that one's at home. Otherwise, I would show it to you. It's beautiful. But again, those stoles are very like, again, to me, the symbol of the stole is identifies me as the clergy person, but having it personalized to the occasion is kind of fun and special, and that stole will always connect me. Now, this is the most out there stole I have. It's also from a wedding. And they made the stole for me to wear at the wedding so that I was in with their theme. Now their theme was classy marble. I kid you not. So all of the grooms had ties made from this material, and then my stole was made from this material. And I kid you not, it is like old comic book, Marvel comic books. So I've got the Hulk and Captain America, Wolverine, Spider-Man, and it's a stole. So I wore this for that wedding. Again, identifying who I am. So I am a clergy person and I am uh ordained, so I can wear a stole. But also kind of tailored again to that scenario. I have not found another occasion. Sorry, this one's kind of. I've not found another occasion to wear this stole. You're probably not going to see me wear this on a Sunday morning unless I somehow can tie it in with my children's sermon. That's the only time I feel like probably that I would do it. Um, But isn't it fun? My husband was a groomsman at this wedding, actually, and so he does have the matching tie to go along with this. Now, uh, you're probably going to see him in that tie before you see me in the stole, and the odds of either are slim to none. Just because he doesn't really wear ties, and I don't know where I would wear this stole, where that it would feel appropriate. Maybe if we did a superhero BBS, I could tie it in somehow. I'm not sure. But uh yeah, so that's a little bit about clergy stoles. Again, and I said that, and I want to be clear that in the United Methodist Church, that is how we do it. I mentioned briefly that I co-officiated wedding with one of my best friends who is also a clergy person, and she was ordained in the United Church of Christ. And they do it a little bit different. In our church, our ordination is done at the conference level, and so you are ordained at annual conference. In United Church of Christ or congregational systems, ordination happens at the local church. I believe Lutherans do it this way as well. And they don't have a two-step process like we do with commissioning and ordination. They just have ordination. And so it is at the local church level where they would receive their stole. I was very blessed to go to my friend's ordination service in her small, tiny church up by Aberdeen in Columbia. Shout out to Chad Herman, because I know he is from that area. Um, and it was a beautiful little service. And what was interesting though is so she got ordained and I had been commissioned, but I was not ordained yet. So I wore my robes to the service because other clergy people were encouraged to robe and wear their vestments. But I could not wear a stole because I was not ordained, even though I was clergy. But there were other Lutheran pastors there, there were other UCC pastors there who were in their robes and stoles. And again, that's just a difference between the way that we work and the way that our polity is and the way that we have our process. And so yeah, that's just something a little different. And so again, stoles, it's not that I don't like them. Part of the reason that I hadn't worn them is one, sometimes I kind of feel like I don't want the stole to compete. If I'm not wearing my robe, I often didn't think to wear my stole because I don't want it to compete with what I'm wearing and make it look weird. So I'm trying to be mindful of that. But two, one of the reasons that I have chosen not to wear clergy vestments all the time is my experience of people. um, I am not necessarily what you would assume a pastor to be like. Now, I I'm fully aware of that. And I feel like that's always been part of my ministry, especially when I was in youth ministry, because who would have hired the nerdy single girl to hang out with teenagers? But it worked. It worked in a beautiful way. Um, but one of the things I've noticed over the years is that um, people sort of behave a certain way when they know the pastor is around, or to the pastor when they know that's the pastor. Um, and then they behave a certain way to people who are not the pastor. And prior to my first appointment, I know I've told this story before, but I went and visited the church where I was going to serve, and I sat down in the pew for the service. And then I had two women come up to me and say I couldn't sit there. That was their spot. And they asked me to move when there was plenty of seats all around me. And I was pretty taken aback by that. And then in that service, the senior pastor announced me as the incoming associate pastor, and the look on those women's faces when they realized what they had done, um, and that they had just told one of their incoming pastors they can't sit there. And that always just resonated with me, because if you are not going to treat your pastor that way, you shouldn't treat anybody that way. And I get a little bit more of the realness. Also because I feel like, again, it reminds people that I'm a real person. But then on the flip side, wearing my stoles once in a while is that reminder of like, but I'm also called to this. I'm also equipped for this. I've also been vetted for this. Last week, you learned what the process was that I went through to become ordained. Yes, I'm a person, but I'm also a person that truly has been set aside for this, and prepared and equipped for this and called to this. And so that's part of why I've decided to have a regular reminder of, yes, I am a real person, but also, yes, I am your pastor, and I do serve in this role, and I serve it as faithfully as I can. Um, but I've just had too many experiences where people behaved poorly to me because they thought I wasn't anybody in particular that was worth anything, until they found out I was the pastor, and then their whole countenance changed. And that really bothered me, because again, I truly believe if you're not going to treat your pastor in a certain way, then you don't treat anybody that way. And I don't want anyone walking into this church treating anybody poorly because they're not the pastor. And there's plenty of people that, if you know, one of the things I heard from one of my mentors was part of the reason he wore a clergy collar was to remind himself of who he was, which is great, but also to make him easily identifiable for anyone that comes into the church. And I get that, but I also feel like if you come into the church and you want to speak to the pastor, you can talk to any person, and they're going to direct you to me. Also, I quite literally have my picture in the entryway, and it says senior pastor, so um, I think you can find me. But yeah, so stoles are kind of a fun thing. They are a sacred thing. Um, I don't the other fun piece, um, if I were to choose to wear a clergy shirt or vestments, I will not wear them in purple. So if like get me a green stole all day. And I know that we use purple, and purple stole would be fine for Advent or Lent. But otherwise we reserve the color purple for our bishops. And so yeah, don't I don't rock the purple for that reason, because I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I don't want to be a bishop. Mm-mm. Nope. I met people when I was in seminary who said they felt called to be a bishop, and I was like, God bless you. That is not for me. That is a hard job that I do not care to have. So yeah, I hope that was interesting. I hope that was helpful. So yep, I will wear my stoles for anytime we are doing sacraments. And again, I always wear robes and stoles doing funerals and weddings unless I am requested not to. That doesn't really happen. But I guess if yeah. No, I pretty much just wear them for those as well. So a little bit of my thought process behind it. Again, other clergy come to different conclusions based on where they're serving, what their life experiences are, and what they feel is going to best serve the congregation where they are. Some clergy people, you'll never see them in suits. I think one of the pastors in Sioux Falls doesn't even own a suit. And I said, what do you wear for weddings and funerals? Nice pants and a polo shirt or something. Like, we're all contextual. And then there's another church in Sioux Falls where if you don't own a suit, the congregation is going to be like, what are you doing? Um, so some of that is pastor preference, some of that is church setting and finding that balance between the two. But I always find it helpful for you to understand where my thought process is. I know that there are people in this church that have their own preferences that might not match where I am, and that's okay. And again, always know that I'm always trying to put thought into whatever I choose to do and why I'm doing it. So the next time you see me, you can say, hey, Pastor, I like your stole. Until next time, God bless. Thank you for joining us for this episode of What's Going On, a video and audio podcast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. We'd love to have you join us for worship on Sundays at 10 a.m., either in person or via our live stream, which can be found at our website, www.firstumcyankton.org, or by searching First UMC Yankton on YouTube.